So in this session, we will gain tools on how you can strengthen your organization to better impact your community.
My name is Colton, and I am placed at the DMAC Vancouver Career Academy in the awesome city of Perry, right, with my awesome supervisor Holly over there. So my position there is the community engagement coordinator, and to kind of give a little background on why it is that I'm kind of in Public Allies. I started, which kind of deals with helping out communities and whatnot, helping people get better themselves. I started actually my community development, community service as when I was 18, when I was elected mayor of my town, and so that kind of helped there. The city of Dawson, the proud 133 people, citizens of Dawson. So that's right, I'm about 10%, just a little under 10% of the population representing here. So, but that's where it started. I went to college, went to Drake University, graduated with a degree in law, politics, and society. Thought I was going to be a lawyer. Decided I didn't want to do that. Spent last summer baling hay with my grandfather because that's what we do, make that money, I guess. That ended, and I was like, I can't bail anymore, so what should I do? And I was like, well, I can help out. I saw something on Facebook, and then I checked it to make sure it was real, I guess. And then I was like, oh, I can help people get to college or learn and kind of get educational opportunities through at Perry. So I applied for that. Had an interview with Holly, which was awesome, and then I got the job and I was able to start doing that. So what I do there essentially is a lot of programming opportunities for people who are students, prospective students, current students, also parents, helping them realize the actual costs of college. Also working with people for different programs that we have, the HISET program or HISED program, the new what replaced the GED program. Helping them connect with that. I'm also a Workforce Training Academy advisor there, so I help people take free college credits for this session. They're getting credits for CNA programs. I'm also now, Holly calls me the jack of all trades, because now I'm also a student advisor, helping students not just in Perry now, but every one of the school districts that we deal with and that we work with, all the high school districts. I am now their part-time student advisor to help connect them with the different and various educational opportunities that they have. So it's a very fun, very long, and very rewarding job, but I love it. So
my name is Raquel, and I am from Lansing, Michigan. Graduated from Central Michigan with a bachelor in psychology. My placement was Opportunity Iowa, and basically what we're focused on is creating opportunities for youth and young adults, focusing on that age group of 16 to 24 within the state of Iowa. In order for us to do that, we've created what we call an Opportunity Compass, which is an online resource tool that highlights resources, organizations, services within the state of Iowa that offer youth services for that target population. For the past 10 months, I've been working on promoting both that Opportunity Iowa and the Opportunity Compass and collaborating with different partners and different community leaders, educators, just trying to put out that Opportunity Iowa movement and get them aware of what it is that we do.
I'm Christopher Ricci. I'm replacing Polk County decategorization. I'm not going to indulge too many details about what Polk County decat means because I don't think there's enough time in the universe to adequately explain what that is. Suffice it to say that my portion of what I do is somewhat of a program coordinator, program manager position. I oversee the variety of mini-grant programs that DCAT offers to the community, essentially what decategorization projects do in the state of Iowa, and it's unique to the state of Iowa. We manage funds that are allocated to the Department of Human Services and Juvenile Court Services, and we offer those back, at least what is under my purview, is offering those monies back in the form of mini-grants to community-based organizations that work to strengthen families, to provide self-sufficiency for families, to strengthen youth, to assist refugees. There's really a wide variety of things that are under our administrative wing. In addition to that, like Colton, I kind of do a lot of things, although not as much as our dear mayor. Additionally, within the Department of Human Services in Polk County, is the Minority Youth and Families Initiative. It's a DHS-led initiative to reduce disproportionality, specifically among African Americans in Polk County. There's actually as well, there's a MiFi in Woodbury County, Teresa, correct? Yes, which is focused on reducing disproportionality among Native American populations. What I do with MiFi in Polk County is create a communication plan, create a monthly newsletter, assisting with the image of that entity within DHS. And lastly, within each of this is so high. Within each of the DCAT clusters around the state, there is an entity called Community Partnerships for the Protection of Children, which is essentially, as you can imagine by the name, a partnership between communities, community members, community-based organizations, human service providers, and the department, juvenile court services, law enforcement, with the express goal of protecting children, obviously hence the name, and reducing disproportionality once again specifically among African American populations.
My name is Luke Ridout. I'm originally from Iowa Fellow Elton here in northwest Iowa by Storm Lake. Out of all the places to meet him, I think this would be it. Shout out there. And in between then, by the time I got done graduating high school, in between then and now, I've traveled quite a bit. Went to college in Grand Rapids, Michigan at Calvin College, where I majored in English and Dutch. Probably won't find too many of us running around, and maybe for good reason, and minored in TESOL and Japanese. So in between there, I also like to study cultures, of course, and other languages. And I think, let's see, I've worked for a literacy center in Grand Rapids, Michigan, another nonprofit. Worked in the Netherlands actually as a teacher, and then I came back to the grand town of Pella, Iowa, where I currently reside. And in between, and then I managed to find a position in Ottumwa, which is where I'm stationed with CETA Community Action. At my placement, I travel throughout CETA's 7 service counties, and I hold conversations about poverty within each county. There are month-long conversations where we discuss housing, food, insecurity, just what causes it in the region, and I really enjoy what I do. It involves a lot of traveling, as my supervisor well knows, but it's definitely rewarding. And I get to see a part of Iowa that I'm not familiar with at all, which is, for me, also a big plus.
So, I guess we'll talk about why we're actually here instead of talking about us and being kind of selfish in that regard, you know. But we're going to talk, millennials, that's right. So we're going to talk about strengthening organizations. And so the kind of approach that I kind of go with anything when we get a topic and we're told what to kind of go over and talk about, I look at it, deconstruct it, rework it, I guess, and maybe that infuriates people or something. But that's kind of what we do. So that's kind of what I did. So when we were doing this, our talk was about each individual thing, which what strengthening an organization means is working with the concepts of effectiveness, efficiency, and reach. And so it said "or" in the little description there, but when I was kind of working through this, I realized that they actually work together. And in order to make a strong organization, should really strive to find that nice balance between all three. So that's what we're going to be talking about, is how you deconstructing these different topics and then kind of molding them together to find that perfect balance to strengthen your organization so you have that nice base so that you can expand. And so we're going to walk through that. We're going to have a teachable skill. Because people like learning things and new skills, and that's great. That's what we're here for, right? So we're going to have utilizing intersectionality. Intersectionality, for the purposes of this, is understanding that in order to create one whole thing, it's not comprised of one thing. That who you are as a person or what an organization is as an organization is an amalgamation of a bunch of things together. That me as a person, I have many intersections. I'm a low middle class, half African American, half white, male, right? All these things work together to create me. The same thing works in organizations, that even though you may output for one specific thing, you're actually a combination of a lot of different things. And in this case, it'll be these three, or at least that's what a company or an organization should strive for. To kind of liven it up a bit, because this can be fairly dense, and to kind of ingratiate you guys to us, and especially me, since I kind of came up with this thing. You may notice this little thing here, which if you're not, if you don't know, is the Green Lantern symbol. So superheroes. So just as a quick thing, who here knows what superheroes are? You should. Anybody know what a superhero is? Raise your hand, right? You should, because they're the biggest movies that come out every year, right? The Avengers just came out, Ant-Man's coming out, I guess that's going to be something. You know, there are these things, so a lot of people, right, know what these are. We have these common associations and these underlying associations of what superheroes are. So does anybody in here have a favorite superhero? Right? Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
I have to say.
Oh yeah, who?
The Hulk is my favorite superhero.
Yeah, the Jekyll and Hyde character, right? So it's good. Kind of the duality of man. All right, anybody else?
Mine was Ant-Man, but
Ant-Man's pretty cool, but he's just a knockoff of the Atom, so just saying. All right, I think Olivia, you got your hand up?
Thor.
Right, Thor's cool, yeah.
Hammer thing.
That long blonde hair, right? All right, so one of the cool things, especially for me as somebody who has been a collector and, I guess, reader and enjoyer of comic books and comic media for the last, I guess I've been reading them since I was 4, so 19 years, is not necessarily what makes them, or understanding that what makes superheroes strong, and this is kind of what this ties in here with, is when we think about superheroes, we think about strength, right? Even if it's Ant-Man or if it's Thor, all of these have strength or strong features about them. We think about strength, these ideas of superheroes being strong, whether you're Wonder Woman, whether you're Black Canary, whether you're Superman, who we may regard as the strongest superhero, or Hulk would probably take exception to that being the strongest one there is. But we have this idea, right, that superheroes and strength. And strength isn't necessarily measured by physical strength, whereas somebody like Batman can be measured by his mental strength, or any other character is measured by some other form of strength, right? So all these things come together to create strength, but there are different things that make up strength. So getting into the second or the third slide here is that strong organizations. We're going to talk about that. So again, what makes an organization strong? That's one of the things we're going to discuss. And how do we measure the strength of an organization, right? So what's really important is in deconstructing what makes an organization strong, we might want to gain a fundamental understanding of what strength is outside of the nonprofit sector. If we're going to talk about strength, a strong organization, we need to understand what strength really is. So for this, for strength, right, I pulled up Merriam-Webster dictionary because it was easy and has a really good definition of what strength is. So the quality that allows someone to deal with problems in a determined and effective way, and if effective looks familiar to you, it should, because that's one of the things we're talking about. So it's important because we have our first key word in constructing a definition of strength, which is effectiveness, right? So as we move through that and exploring what strength is, it is imperative that one has an understanding of what effectiveness is as well, right? It's really associated with strength. So effectiveness is defined. Again, Merriam-Webster dictionary defines effectiveness as the ability to produce a decided, decisive, or desired effect. Right? Simply, effectiveness is attaining success. Right? Success at any level, effort of planning, or any level of effort, planning, thought, or ability. Right? Anything. Anytime you succeed, it doesn't matter if you succeeded, you were effective. Right? Simply succeeding qualifies as effectiveness. So. Think of this question, were you able to accomplish what you set out to do? And if the answer is yes, you were effective. So what else, right? Is it enough to have an organization that is solely effective? And you should think no. Right? Why? You may be asking. Effectiveness only measures that an initiative is completed, not how well an initiative is completed, right? So if your goal as a company is to feed 100 people and you fed 100 people, you were really effective, but you may not have been efficient, right? You may have spent too much money, you may have spent too much time. Those are things you need to work through and understand when you're an organization. So an organization can be really good at completing its goals, but again, like I said, may spend more money or time than was reasonably needed to complete those very goals, right? So you may be another organization that seeks out to feed homeless people, but you may have gold toilets. Well, you're very effective, but if you're spending your money on gold toilets, you're not being very efficient with your money as well, right? So it's an important thing to think about. An organization may have also failed to acknowledge another organization that may be able to help or aid them in achieving their goals as well, right? Collaboration, those things are important. Working with other people who share the same goals as yourself. So when you think about that, what else does an organization need to strengthen itself? You should kind of know with the flow of this, and it's going to be efficiency. So efficiency is another key that unlocks the organization's ability to strengthen itself. Right? Efficiency is, again, borrowing from the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the ability to do something or produce something without wasting materials, time, or energy. So we're really thinking about resources here when we're talking about efficiency. Efficiency is the use or the mismanagement of resources. So it's good to keep that in there, keep that in mind. And also efficiency differs from effectiveness. In that effectiveness measures the ability to meet a goal, and efficiency is the mean in which that goal is met, right? So the things, the processes that you institute, to meet your goal is different than simply meeting your goal, right? Those are two separate things, and these are important. So efficiency in the nonprofit sector would be the various programs, initiatives, and systems that an organization implements, right? So it's important. So moving on to our third one, which would be reach. The last way, one big strength in their organization is to reach, not wholly, but within our presentation. Reach, for the purposes of this presentation, is important because it's really hard to define, is the ability to extend one's initiatives beyond themselves in order to create a larger impact. That if you are an organization that seeks to feed the homeless, as you may be or not, there may be other organizations that help do that, whether they may feed the homeless or maybe they're the people who supply the food, right? There's that collaboration you may make there in order to serve and to help. So think of it as expanding your base, right? So making what you have larger. Reach allows a nonprofit to increase the people served through collaboration, advertisement, networking, or any other means of expanding services, right? That all helps to expand the base. An organization that has reach is one that is well known within its community, partners with other organizations, and uses its prominence to engage more people, right? So again, expanding that base. So, for you guys, really quickly, this doesn't have to be anything really too big, but which of those do we call them assets here, identify with the most? Either within your position at your organization, if you're a public ally, right? You're not running the organization, or you should be. Or as an organization in general, if you're somebody who is a director of your organization or whatnot, you have a kind of idea. So what I mean by this, what we mean by this question is, either your role at your organization or the organization in general, do they tend to try to be more effective? Is that the goal? Is the goal always the thing that they strive for? Is efficiency, keeping costs low, or making things happen quickly and fast? Is that kind of your position or your goal at your organization? Or do you work in more of a collaborative effort? So kind of which ones do you kind of identify with? If you identify with being effective, kind of raise your hand. If like that's your position or if that's kind of your organization's kind of push there. We had one up front. See, there we go. We got participants. That's good, right? All right, so then efficiency. So anybody working in that kind of making things happen quick, making things happen cheaper than what than is presently done. So efficiency, anybody working with that? Yeah, there we go. All right, I like participants. All right, reach, anybody working with a collaborative effort, working with other people, right? See, there we go. See, not that hard. Keeps you guys involved, it's good. All right, so effectiveness versus efficiency versus reach. And we have kind of determined this is like the pillars of strength, the very kind of foundations that make strength possible, that underlie strength. So it can be very difficult to remember the differences between these three pillars, right? So sometimes people use efficiency and effectiveness interchangeably. And they may have a difficult time understanding what reach really is. Like I said, we had to kind of define that ourselves. So these pillars are different. Each has its own separate properties and functions. So if one has an issue remembering what each pillar can mean, then refer to the superhero method. Again, bring it full circle, right? It's good. So we have the superhero method, which is something I came up with. So in this instance, effectiveness will be Superman, and there's a reason for that, because he will accomplish the goal no matter the cost, right? He's going to fight that person, but again, it's always going to be focused solely on completing the goal. Efficiency and reach is not really what he's thinking about. He's thinking about that one goal, right? So think of it as Superman is the person who does the right thing. Superman's the Boy Scout, right? Doing the right thing, very goal-oriented, very much getting where he's supposed to be, right? Efficiency, the Flash, light, speed, so there's that. Will perform a task with the least amount of friction needed, right? He's got a frictionless suit. He does everything he needs to be efficient to get to where he needs to go. That's really hard to read. Minimalizing the amount of work to accomplish the same task, right? So he's very much about reducing time, reducing energy, reducing the amount of resources he needs to accomplish the task. And the differentiation between effectiveness is doing the thing right? So it's that kind of difference. It's a very subtle but important difference there. So the next one brings Batman, my favorite comic character. He works with others to accomplish his task. Now, some people may think that Batman's really alone. If you watch the new Nolan movies, he's very isolated, but that's not true. He works with his Batman family, a bunch of people that are together, Nightwing and Robin, all the 5 different Robins there are, Batgirl, Batwoman, there's Oracle, there's tons of them. But he does work with a lot of people to help accomplish his task. He seeks help to seeks to help the most amount of people, which is in Gotham City, right? He's a person who is a human. He's got humanity, right? He's not Superman. He's limited in his humanity. So he really seeks to help out the most amount of people within Gotham City because that's his limit, right? He can't achieve that goal without the assistance of others, right? So in order for him to protect a whole city, he's only one man, and he's a human. So he has to rely on the assistance of others. So that's where these kind of come in. That each one of these, well, I should also say he's well known. He has his hands in many fields. He's kind of known everywhere. So, superheroes and nonprofits. So there are many similarities between superheroes and nonprofits. But for this presentation, the relation is mostly between superheroes and the Pillar of Strength. There's a reason for that, which both are iconic. We're using symbolic representation so that when we say effectiveness, you guys think of Superman, right? The person who does the right thing. It's really important. So again, you'll think of the corresponding superhero and all the traits they possess. And these traits are pretty kind of circular, so they also reflect the Pillars of Strength. So it's kind of use of demonic devices, so you guys retain that information walking out here. If you had an issue understanding what reach is or understanding what effectiveness or efficiency is, when you walk out here and someone says effectiveness, you're like, oh yeah, I was on that really, really, really cool presentation where some guy was talking about Superman and the Flash and stuff, and I remember because it was awesome. Probably not, but so I'll pass it on to our next person.
So as Colton explained, effectiveness is basically just doing the right thing. It's really just where organizations are focused on meeting that objective goal at hand. Whether that's an organization that focuses on feeding the hungry, helping the poor, educating the undereducated, helping refugees. It's really just about utilizing the assets at hand to get the job done. Now, I also think of effectiveness as also being that passion or that drive that an individual or the organization has as a whole to do what they enjoy doing, which can be good, but that alone by itself does not really get it done. So let's say, for example, a superhero like Superman, who has the power, he has the strength to defeat a villain like Doomsday. But in the process, he destroys half of downtown doing it. So it's like, yeah, you did the job, you got it done, but did you have to destroy, half of where we live? So it's like, yeah, you were effective. But there had to be another way that you could have got this done. Another example would be a nonprofit agency that focuses on feeding the hungry. They have the money, they have the food, get the job done. But they realize in the process that they spent over 50% more than they needed to reach that target population. So basically, all this goes to say is that being effective, you can be effective. It's good to have an effective organization, but being effective doesn't mean that you're not efficient as well. You can still be disorganized and wasteful with the materials that you have and getting the job done.
So I'm going to be talking about efficiency. And like Raquel said about effectiveness, that effectiveness is doing the right thing. Efficiency, similarly, is doing the thing right. Not that there's simply one way to do anything within any of the myriad of organizations that we work with, but there is a certain methodology involved. For nonprofits, efficiency is usually tied to financial resources, and that's pretty obvious. There's a premium on grant funding, there's a premium on any amount of funding that our organizations can obtain. And there's obvious ways that efficiency is drained. Overhead, spending too much on overhead, wasting too much money, fraud, what have you. Those are really obvious to us. But what's not often considered is that efficiency can also be tied to timeliness. I don't think that is often considered when we consider the efficient use of our organizations. Can one's initiatives be completed in a faster amount of time? That's what you're asking when you're talking about the use of time within your organization. That's something we'll talk more about. Those who are efficient work to minimize the burden of all their resources. That's, I think, clear to all of us. working in the organizations that we do. So you ask yourself, how can I be faster? How can I do this work faster? How can I do it smarter? How can I do it with less impact on my financial resources? How can I stretch this grant so that it covers X program and X program and X program? But just like effectiveness, and just like all these assets that we're talking about, these three pillars that are involved in strengthening organizations, efficiency can have, an excess of efficiency can have negative consequences. So the cons of efficiency essentially can be summed up in getting so caught up in being efficient that you forget the overall goal. The goal that Raquel was talking about in being effective, that goal that you set as an outcome, whether it's in a grant application or what have you, losing sight of that overall goal just for the means of efficiency, just for the sake of efficiency. So, tying it back in full circle, the Flash may worry so much about getting to where he needs to go quickly that he forgets exactly where he is supposed to go, or he may not be equipped to fight the villain once he gets there. He just wants to get there fast in that red suit. A nonprofit may worry so much about keeping overhead low that it fails to help the very people that it intends on helping. So, and like I said, we all know that there's a premium on grant funding. There's a premium on funds that can be obtained by contracts through whatever entities, community foundations, or through the state, what have you. But regardless, that doesn't equate that you can cut the legs out from under yourself, is essentially what I'm trying to say. So in other words, you don't budget enough to be effective. That's the excess of being too efficient. An organization can be so efficient that it prevents itself from being effective. And there's a variety of ways, practical applications, ways that we see this played out I know the ways that I've seen it played out at my placement with organizations that we've partnered with, and just in general, such as not investing in yourself, hiring underqualified staff, settling for an office with questionable quality, not investing enough in advertising, saying, well, we'll rely on word of mouth. We're just going to rely on getting the word out through our partnerships or our network. We don't need to spend money advertising, and to an extent that's understandable, like I said, but it's important regardless of that the word still needs to be out there. And what this essentially amounts to is cutting corners leads to efficiency, but it also prevents an organization from accomplishing its goals by not having the necessary tools to be successful. Like I said, you're cutting the legs out from under yourself. If the goal to give this a more concrete example, we had already used the example of an agency, let's say, that has its express goal of feeding the hungry. If the goal of the company is to competently feed 100 hungry people, an efficient organization asks, can I competently feed 100 people faster? How can I competently feed them in a smarter way? Can I competently feed them in a quicker way? Whereas, on the other hand, an over-efficient organization asks simply, how can I do this faster, smarter, cheaper? Not with that goal in mind, that the effective goal that Raquel had referred to, which is essentially what that first example is talking about. How can I do this? How can I feed 100 people but do it faster? How can I do it more efficiently? Whereas with the other example, it just abandons the idea, the second example abandons the idea of effectiveness in the pursuit of being efficient, which, going back, is understandable for many, many reasons, and for a lot of the agencies that are represented in this room. But because of the premium, because of the competition to gain grant funding, but regardless, it's unsustainable.
All right, so I'll be talking about REACH, and I saw that quite a few of you raised your hands when we discussed REACH, so I hope some of you at least can relate to what I'm about to say. That'd be interesting to find out. about some of those examples, but they'll have to wait for later, right? So, get used to this newfangled technology these days. All right, as Colton discussed earlier, it involves expanding your base. When we discuss reach, we talk about not only broadening your scope of impact in your organization, but also broadening your influence within your service region. So, while community actions are sometimes the only major nonprofit area or nonprofit organization in the area, oftentimes there are other nonprofit organizations who seek to alleviate poverty, or individuals or groups in some of the counties that also just wish for betterment in the community. So I want you to take a moment. I think each and every one of us can do this. Take a moment and try to identify some of the organizations or individuals in your area who have similar goals to your own organizations. I'll give you a moment. So maybe that could be your average citizen. It could be maybe your local United Way. Maybe it could even be a philanthropic business. You never know. So hopefully you all have kind of some organizations in mind when we discuss this. So at my placement, I go to 7 different counties, and in each one I draw both individual volunteers and group nonprofit organization volunteers. So to me, this tells me that in each county in Iowa, no matter where you're at, you're probably going to find someone who wishes something similar to you, assuming that's alleviating poverty or helping with the effects of that. So, working with organizations and individuals to improve the services you provide is what we're going to describe as reach. The idea is that the larger your resource pool is that you have to draw from, the greater your impact can be. The greater your impact can be in your community. That's not to say that your organization does something poorly. That just means that you're a singular organization and you can only do so much to help out your community. By forming collaborations with other nonprofits, institutions, individuals, you can maximize your potential within your service region. So, to use a practical example, I'm going to use my placement. So, my boss is here, I'm kind of nervous. So, at my placement, I see the community action. As I said before, mentioned before, I go throughout our 7 service counties. So oftentimes these service counties are ones that I don't know that well. As I said before, I'm from Northwest Iowa. What's a Northwest Iowa boy doing in the Southeast? I don't know, but I'm there. So what that looks like, or what that means for me, is I have to go and find individuals or groups that know the counties much better than I do in order for conversations to go smoothly. So sometimes that means looking internally to individuals that know much more about their service counties than perhaps someone outside. But other times it does mean going outside and forming collaborations with groups and individuals so I can learn a little bit more about the county and what makes it tick. By the time I finish my month-long conversations, this means that I've effectively reached out to a group or a network of people who didn't know what my community action does before. It has a better idea of our clientele, what we do, and our employees. That means that since most of them, if not all, walk away with a more positive view of my community action, that means that we are more likely to gain referrals because people know that we are competent to handle the needs of our potential clientele base. So, by the end of the conversations of the month, we have not only increased our reach, but we have also achieved other program goals as well, namely finding out what the current needs are in each community. So through a program like this, you can easily expand your reach. So, the most effective collaborations I often make are with organizations and individuals who have similar goals to our own as a community action. So while it's certainly possible to engage with other individuals whose goals might not be completely on the same path, the most efficient thing to do is to find the organizations that do. That way you have a common background in ideology, in the clientele base, among many other things. So in this way you can maximize your potential in your community. It also increases the effectiveness of your services if you can refer to outside sources. All right, I'm having trouble keeping up here. All right. There are a few potential oversights when looking for reach. And again, since so many of you raised your hand, I'm not sure if you could identify with this or not. And to illustrate these, we're going to use Colton's favorite superhero, Batman. So Batman, as he said before, Batman has a very wide range of options to choose from to initiate when he wants to reach out and find out the best ways to conquer a problem in Gotham City. He has his superhero pals. You know, I shouldn't call them pals, they'd probably beat me up. Robin and Nightwing, Police Commissioner Gordon, yes, and among others, many others. He knows more about it. And that's just Batman himself. As his alter ego, he is, as far as I know, he's a pretty high roller and has all the right friends in all the right places, so to speak. Is this one part? Okay. However, there was one problem that Batman failed to reach his potential, and that was when Superman came to town. Superman wanted to help out Gotham City, but Batman actually rejected him on the premises that he didn't know, that Superman did not know enough about his city in order to effectively reach the population. Well, in reality, Batman probably could have given him, you know, a week or a month, however much time Superman has. Does he have a lot of free time on his stream?
I don't know, he's saving the world all the time.
Yeah, so, but he could have trained him. So the point is, I think we need to be careful to not overlook these potential partnerships, especially when they could have formed this massive superhero bond and probably wiped out crime in Gotham City, at least the violent crime. At least you can't hard to fight monetary crime when you're a superhero. But to the unwillingness of Batman, because of the unwillingness of Batman, this bond didn't happen, and instead, I guess Superman flew off on his way to save someone else. Okay, so another potential error is not properly identifying the similar goals, as I talked about before. It's good to partner with people who have a like mind, because if you partner with someone, collaborate with someone who doesn't have similar goals to you, that could end up leading you in two directions, therefore actually lessening your efficiency and your reach. So more potential oversights. Before you jump into a collaboration, you need to make sure that your organization is on solid ground, whether that means you have enough time or energy or money, resources. Be sure that your organization can efficiently achieve the partnership that you are aiming, or the partnership if someone comes to you for collaboration. So essentially, you want to make sure that your organization is capable of reaching its own goals before reaching out to someone else. On the reverse side, it's also true. If you're looking for a collaboration, you need to, prior to forming the collaboration, assess the capabilities of the potential partnership. That way, both organizations aren't expecting too much of one another. The way to remedy both of these situations is clear communications. If you clearly establish what each individual organization can and cannot do, then you can set adequate goals that you can both reach, thereby, at the end of the day, of course, expanding your reach in your community. So, what that looks like is by the time your organization is done with whatever partnership you made, that could actually, your reach could actually be able to partner with them in the future to make sure that you can have more initiatives like the one, for instance, that I'm doing. So it's important that you're on that solid ground.
We're going to move on to kind of these, we kind of talked and deconstructed these different ideas. And so what we're going to do now is this is more of kind of like, these are the different things that maybe an organization should do. We had to be really general because, as you all know, we have people here from different organizations that serve very different needs, that also have different internal mechanisms that make them work. So we couldn't be too fairly specific because each organization is different and has a different path to that strength. These are just kind of overall practical and general steps to be effective, efficient, and have reach. Right?
All right, so starting with identifying the mission. Of course, every organization should kind of know what they're doing. But I think at some point it takes a minute for you to kind of take a step back to remember why it is that you do what you do. So re-identifying mission should be your first step. Identify the gaps and recognize assets. So appreciate the power of the team and know what you have. Next step should be plan and prioritize. So take one step at a time. Like, I know a lot of nonprofit organizations come with so much that they're supposed to be doing, but I think you have to take a step back and just deal with what you can, which also goes along with eliminating the fluff. If it's not necessary, put it to the side and do what you need to get done. All right, now monitor your progress, which is basically saying measure and manage to eliminate long-term losses. Celebrate and re-energize, which means appreciate your staff. You know, people that you have working for you, as well as recognizing successes that you have.
Efficiency, what I had talked about a little bit more concrete. I would say the first step, and really, even if you ignore all the other steps, this is the most important step, I feel, at least, and I'm saying that because of experience that I've had with my placement, interacting with a lot of different organizations at and within an entity that provides funding. Don't fall for, if you build it, they will come when it comes to programming. And what I mean by that is when we built those cup towers, if you just built straight up, it didn't stand very long. It fell over right away. It was very easy for it to fall over. And we see this time and again when it comes to agencies that have, especially agencies that receive a high volume of referrals and continue to receive a high volume of referrals because of the success maybe of the curriculum, maybe the success of the staff, very charismatic staff, what have you. So they decide that to meet these numbers, these referral numbers, what they do is just continue to add on programming. Let's just add another session to it. Let's add another evening session. If you're talking about teaching youth, let's just add another session. Let's go to another school. We're at Scavo, let's go to East. If we're at East, let's go to North. Let's, hit every single school. Let's just add programs. And that's not going to be sustainable ultimately. You're not going to be effective, like Raquel was talking about. You're not going to be reaching out to other organizations like Luke was talking about, and ultimately your efficiency is going to stagger because of it. It's going to be minimized because of that. Secondly, this is really obvious, I know, and cliche, but log and prioritize your time and the time of your staff. And what this gets to the heart of, I feel, is something that my supervisor and I have talked about, something that she likes to call, and forgive me, Teresa, if I don't speak as eloquently as you do, but so in this work, there are people with social work brains and there are people with accounting brains. And I think we can all attest to that within our organizations. The people with the social work brain just want to go out and do things. They want to be helping. The people with the accounting brains get frustrated then when they don't log their time and when they don't submit time reports for the grants or what have you, so that they can properly document the way that the time was spent for their salaries. So that is important, and if that's not a facet of something that you feel you're good at, then I would suggest finding somebody that is. Thirdly, this really ties in, because like Colton mentioned initially, the learnable or the teachable skill rather that we're trying to reinforce is intersectionality. And this really strikes at the heart of that. Be as efficient as you need to be in order to be effective. I made that example earlier of feeding 100 hungry people. That's really hard to say. It's like hungry hippos when you're standing up here. 100 hungry people competently do it as efficiently as you need to in order to meet that performance measure or what have you. And speaking of performance measures, in order to be more efficient, obviously it's worth your time to create those. And if you don't know, learn how. There's a multitude of resources on the internet. There's actually a training that my placement is doing. Polk County DCAT is doing a training just on performance measures. we're bringing in an outside speaker, Ron Meir, he's wonderful, just on setting performance measures and outcomes. So I would recommend doing that. And in addition to that, in addition to setting performance measures, there's a lot of models that are really effective that I know people with the social work brain do not like modeling. And I know as public allies, we had to do a lot of modeling initially when we were talking about our training. We had to learn how to do logic models and how to do the imagine and how to do the prepare. And initially it seemed like, why are we doing this? You're banging your head against a wall. And then 6 months later, it makes an enormous amount of sense when you're doing your TSP. All those models are very effective. I know, just to kind of whet your appetite, and because I don't know much about what I'm talking about here, there's a model that is used within DHS, PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act. It's a cycle released by the NHS Institute, I believe. That's, like I said, I've seen this, it's somewhat in a pedestrian capacity, but it's extremely effective. What I've noticed is very effective, and it increases efficiency capacity. So that's just kind of to whet your appetite for models, because everybody loves modeling, and just strategic planning meetings just sound so fascinating.
We're going to talk about ways that you can apply some of the things we learned about REACH to your organization. There were supposed to be some subpoints on here, but my computer didn't play well with the others, so unfortunately they got muted. I'll note them when we come to them. The first one is to assess your goals and determine how they could be improved through collaboration. Going back to what I said earlier, making sure that your goals are clear and straightforward is key to forming good partnerships. So this was a sub-point. So within your organization, brainstorm individuals and organizations who could help you expand that scope of service. Think about, and try to think a little bit outside the box. You'd be surprised about some of the individuals and groups out there who would be willing to help out your cause if they were only just initiated. Another sub-point I had initially was think about the key individuals who may have untapped potential in the service. Goes back to what I said earlier. The next one is don't reject others who may be able to help, like Batman did, simply due to what they do or do not know about your services. Yet is the key there, as I said. If only Batman would have taken a little more time to help Superman acquaint himself with the surrounding region, they could have formed quite the partnership. The next one is institutions with similar goals make for an easier partnership. That was also a sub-point. So when collaborating, clearly communicate what you are expecting for your output and what your organization can provide. It goes back to part of the efficiency part of REACH. Form a task list and discuss what the other institutions can provide far in advance when your collaboration. That was a sub-point. Next sub-point was think creatively about ways to overcome your organization's limitations and reach outside for collaboration or programming to expand your reach. A program such as the one I'm currently working on is a good way to expand your reach. It gains awareness in the community. People who have never been to our community action now have interaction with us. They know about it if they see someone in need. A lot of the people who care about poverty in the community often come to our meetings, and they might not yet know about CETA. They have that information now. They can go out and talk about that to individuals who may need our services.
So what we're going to do is we're going to give out these different scenarios, and you guys will work as a team, as a group at your table. And so what we want you to do is look at this hypothetical organization, and there's 3 different types. And so what you're going to do is kind of look through those, read through them, identify kind of what their strengths and what their weaknesses are. Are they efficient? Are they effective? And do they have reach, right? Are they expanding that base? So with your group, list the possible oversights that the organization has made, right? Kind of take the kind of tools and different things that we have given you and identify those things. Then discuss and list the ways in which this organization can strengthen itself. And then basically, are there any other organizations, like real organizations you guys may know that you work with or work for, that this organization could partner with? And does this organization also seem organized? They really should be, but they may not be. And then after some time, we'll discuss your findings and suggestions. So take about 5 to 7 minutes to read this over, discuss, write down the different ways that you would strengthen this organization. We have 3 different scenarios. Each table should have gotten its own scenario to work together as a group. So for those of you who has scenario A, who wants to read the short, just a short kind of quick thing about that one? You don't have to go the full thing.
Sure. Essentially, scenario A is about a nonprofit organization, and I'm really proud of the name that I came up with, so I'm going to indulge that. Learning for Iowa's Little Ones, or LELO. I thought it was going to go over better. Essentially, they are being inefficient. They are overworking the staff that they have. The staff were provided because of a grant that they obtained through a community foundation, and that staff is being overworked, essentially. So people with scenario A, was it no?
Can you raise your hand, please?
If you have scenario A, can you raise your hand?
Just 2 tables here. All right, so what we would like for you guys to do is just kind of give us a few of your guys' steps, or what you guys see from your insights, what they could do to strengthen their organization.
Collaboration with local schools is one of the first things that came up.
Okay.
With local schools, possibly if they have to cap the amount of kids that they can take for a summer program, maybe talk to other community programs that do kind of the same thing and see if they can take some of the kids that they couldn't accept.
All right. Anything for you guys?
Invest in qualified staff. One of the things that we talked about was their reach may be good, but are they actually doing with the children what they're supposed to be doing?
Okay.
Learning objectives, things like that.
All right. You know, we kind of, in the interest of time, kind of have to move a little quickly. Sorry about that. So we'll move to scenario B, and if we want to kind of go through that real quick. Kind of a quick synopsis.
All right. Scenario B was Nothing Like Home, which is an organization that provides low-income housing for young parents 18 through 26 living in Isabella County. And so this organization is really effective, and they've been going for the past 5 years within Isabella County, but have decided that they want to branch out and go to Highlands County, which is a well-known retirement area. They have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, Home Depot, and United Way of Isabella County. So the thing here, if you had scenario B, was what are some ways that can make it effective in Highlands and other counties as well?
So who had B? Awesome. Easy. All right. So what are you guys' steps here?
The main thing that we saw was that it was given that they had a lot of collaborations, but they kind of specified that they were only relying on them for donations and volunteer involvement. So maybe asking for the collaborations to help with the capacity information in order to get the information out to their ages 18 to 26. And then also another big flaw that we saw was understanding the community's needs, maybe specific for Isabella County, the need for the SUP program wasn't actually a good program for that specific county, so maybe spreading out to different counties that shows the more need for the program, things like that.
The other table.
We had working on developing collaborations with agencies that actually were serving the target population, so expanding to programs like WIC and possibly Head Start, or maybe working with local health departments that would serve those young families. And we identified that since our organization isn't bound, it sounds like they're not bound by specific grant requirements, that since we started building in a known retirement community and we were receiving applications outside the age bracket, that we might possibly entertain the idea of accepting those applications in that community, because the community is responding by telling us there is a need for that in that area, and thinking about our expansion in counties like on a county-by-county basis.
All right. Thank you. All right, so now we have scenario C.
Yeah, so basically I wanted to listen to the idea of kind of this super community action. They've got their stuff together, so to speak. They're very efficient. They do everything really well. Everything they do efficiently, and they do it quite well. However, there's a problem. They seldom reach outside of their own sphere of influence, and they're having a very difficult time drawing clientele in because it's a small town and people are very leery of going and identifying themselves as a needy person. So, the question was, what are some steps that community action can take to help mitigate those problems that I mentioned before? Actually, we had a quiet table back there. Hopefully we got a little talking. What did you have?
Well, we talked about that it sounds like they're sort of staying within their own group and within their own organization. So we would encourage them to reach out to other organizations in the community, maybe partner with schools or the library or another place that they can provide their same services, but just have a community partner so that people who weren't feeling comfortable going to their office could go somewhere else to receive the services. We also talked about having some other incentive to bring those families to their office, so maybe some other reason, so then when they come in and help address that need instead of the reason that the person needed to come in the first place.
Quiet, yeah.
We weren't really quiet. It's not huge.
Wisdom is quiet. So
were there any other groups, any other tables that had?
And then the other ones. What did you have?
We said they needed to collaborate. Obviously, there were other agencies in their county that were providing food or necessary services. They never reached out to them. So those clients that were hesitant to come to get the bad reputation could utilize them, or maybe going to outlying counties, you know, do a reciprocal kind of thing. So, because we're from Northwest Iowa,
A different location.
and it's very hard when you're town of 500, and you have to go to the local outreach. Everybody knows that you're there.
Yeah,
So maybe you can have a reciprocal agreement with the next county so that they can go somewhere else to get their needs met and not have that reputation.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you guys for participating, all right? So we're going to kind of wrap this up a little bit here with our last two slides. We got some kind of takeaways from what we've been discussing, kind of what you've done. And so what you see is that all these like pillars of strength, they have positives and negatives, that if you kind of focus solely on one, that there could be some negative consequences. So the negatives result when an organization thinks about utilizing one of the pillars rather than combining all the pillars together, not being kind of interchangeable, not having a lot of intersections, right? So have you ever heard the term strength in numbers, right? That if you take one pencil and you break it, right, it's going to be really easy. If you start taking like 30 pencils, it gets exponentially tougher to break, right? There's that kind of strength in that, not only in just the diverse people that you have, but the diverse systems that you have, and the goals of efficiency, effectiveness, and reach. So it's a basic principle, again, applies here as well, as I kind of said. Instead of making an organization as efficient, one should try to make an organization that is as efficient as it can be in order to be effective, right? It's a very important distinction. And so you want to set a goal and objective, or so you want to set the goal and objective or result first, right? You have that target population you want to get to. You have that target end that you want, right? You set that first. Then you work to be as efficient as possible to meet those objectives, right? You don't get so consumed in efficiency, and then you also don't get so consumed in effectiveness that you don't think about other efficient ways to meet that task. And then after your organization has found that balance between efficiency and effectiveness, as Luke was saying before, once you have that kind of solid ground for your organization, then you strive for reach, because then you're going to be able to collaborate with other organizations in a meaningful way. And that way each organization is doing their equitable part, not their equal part. They're doing what they're supposed to do, their equitable part, to make that collaboration effective and efficient. All right, so there's a few more takeaways. So here is that when adopting all these pillars, the results of your efforts become greater than the sum of your parts, right? That's strength in numbers. Each one gets exponentially stronger. In this case, kind of 1 plus 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 3. It's greater than 3. When you have these things working together like a well-oiled machine, you're going to be stronger than the sum of your parts. So you can help exponentially more people in communities by being effective, efficient, and having reach. So absolutism is going to be your enemy. For these three things, being absolute with effectiveness means you can be wasteful resources. Being absolute with efficiency means that you can fail to have the resources you need to achieve your goals. And then with being absolute with reach, one may not help as much, or may not be of much help to its partners because you don't have a well-structured organization. Yeah, you're trying to collaborate with a bunch of organizations, but the problem is you're not a very well-off organization yourself, because you're worried so much about collaborating that you're not really worrying about your own issues as an organization. So there's a couple other things that I have here just to kind of wrap up a little bit. So the kind of goal, when we were talking about this and its capacity building efforts, why is I think it was in the original kind of dialogue there that why is it important to increase capacity? I think we all kind of know why that is. You're helping more people, helping more communities. It's pretty kind of simple to think about it, and we don't really need to exacerbate or kind of deconstruct that. Each organization here, everyone represented, has the explicit idea and the goal of helping either people or towns, which then, or cities, which then, of course, has the effect of helping people. So what we want to do is essentially, when we're working with this, kind of a superhero idea, which is that we want to make tomorrow better than today, right? Each day we want to make the next day better than what it is in the previous day. So when we talk about like superheroes and nonprofits, that's what they're doing. Superheroes and nonprofits, people who work in nonprofits, are working to make their community, the people who live there, better off tomorrow than they were today, right? And that means you have to start working today to do that. So when you do that, an organization should want to strengthen an organization, and there's a few ways that you kind of do that. We talked a bunch kind of in general about how to do that, but if you're really going to hit at the heart of what makes an organization strong, one, you have to hire people who want to improve tomorrow. You have to pay them and pay your organization and fund your organization in a way that makes tomorrow better. And then you have to work with other organizations that have the explicit purpose and the explicit goal of making tomorrow better as well. And if you make each day better than the last day, eventually your community and the people who live in there are going to be better